so much. I love you so much. I love you so much. I love you so much.
Hello, all you positive heads. Welcome to a very special episode dedicated to none other than you, the pea heads themselves. I am your pea head enthusiast and hostess for the day, Alexa Hauser. I have been blessed to have the experience of helping out with Positive Head's social media for the better part of a year. And through my digital interactions, I began to realize, as did Brandon, that we have some incredible beings listening to the show who are taking the information that Brandon puts out through the podcast and using it to transform their lives and create wonderful things. You listeners are all a huge part of the life force that propels this show forward through time and space, and we think it's time to bring forth some of you beautiful reflections and delve a little deeper into this collection of energy that is the Positive Head community. So as we shine the spotlight on our listeners, what we'll have them do is share their stories of how they attracted Positive Head into their life, the transformation it's facilitated for them, and what they're focused on creating now that they're in a more positive headspace. Also, this episode of the Positive Head podcast is being brought to you thanks to the support of Gaia. If you're not familiar, Gaia is the go-to source for streaming consciousness content online. And you can sign up for your first month for only 99 cents at gaia.com/positivehead. That's spelled GAIA.com/positivehead. Check it out. Hello, all you positive heads. Welcome to a very special Pea Head Posse episode hosted by me, Alexa Hauser, where we feature you, the amazing listeners of this podcast, and hear your story, find out how you came to be a part of the amazing collective that is the Pea Head audience, and learn about what you're doing, what you're making and creating with this wealth of information Brandon puts out into the universe 5 days a week. Today, our guest is Positive Head listener, Marisa Bramwell. Marisa is a writer and intuitive, as well as an award-winning television journalist, writer, and manager with an extensive career in television. She recently, and quite happily, moved to LA, where she's focused on comedy writing and furthering her spiritual development. Hi, Marisa. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Alexa. Nice to meet you and talk to you.
You as well. I'm excited as well. We connected a little bit before this recording, and it sounds like we have just some things in common. And so I'm really excited for you to share your story. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Okay, well, I'm a writer. I'm a first-generation American. My parents are Jamaican, and I was raised in Houston, Texas. And I've always had like an incredibly big imagination. And so like I've been a writer my whole life. And finally, I feel like now that I'm finally coming into embracing that side of myself and as a creator of new content. And so now I feel like my focus is creating conscious television shows for the mainstream, because I feel like there's a need, with, the current entertainment landscape that we have. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I love that. So how did you end up there? What was your trajectory to kind of this spiritual and this new path for you?
Well, I was, growing up, I'd always been attracted to storytelling. I was, I remember being 3 years old and putting on plays for my parents and just really delighting in that. But somehow, you grow up and you go into the school system and you go to college, and, it's pretty much, hammered into my brain that I needed to do something that would provide a stable lifestyle for myself. So that for me was computer science. I was a programmer from, all through junior high until through college. And so I thought, I'm going to be a computer scientist. But in college, I discovered that like I kind of reconnected to my love for television and ended up, running our campus television station. And when I graduated, I knew I could not get a job in computer science. I knew I had to go into television. So I did, and I ended up in New York City, where I quite quickly became an assignment editor for ABC News. Basically, the assignment desk is the nucleus of any news organization. So I got to work alongside like Diane Sawyer and Peter Jennings, and I was helping them like run news coverage, from everything from the Iraq War to Haiti earthquake and all the big storms, and just managing huge teams of producers, anchors, correspondents, crews, and the editorial side and the logistics of covering a news story. So, and the news desk is staffed 24/7. So, if I'm working a Saturday night overnight shift, and I'll just talk about a big thing that happened. One of my first shifts is when, I don't know if anyone remembers, but our anchor at one of our correspondents at the time, Bob Woodruff, got injured in an IED explosion in Iraq. So that happened on my shift, and I got the call. I took the call from our producer when that happened. Wow. So, what do you do when your team, your coworkers, your colleagues are in this incredibly life-threatening, devastating emergency? You have to scramble, and you just have to not only manage the editorial of that, but also, contacting the family and getting him help, and the logistics of that, and going all the way up the executive chain, managing how that's distributed amongst, the other networks, and how we report that story out ourselves. It's a lot. It was an incredibly rewarding, incredibly demanding and stressful job. So I did that for a few years, but it ended up, I think, just being in that system and being surrounded by, people. I guess even now, you watching the news, like it's hard to watch the news because there's just so much negativity. Just as a consumer. But when you're in it every day, day in, day out, because we were running editorial news coverage, we had to know every single thing that was going on all the time.
Right, that's a lot of negativity coming at you.
It is. It's
a lot of contrast.
It's a lot of contrast. And I ended up, it just started to catch up to me. I lost my compassion for humanity. I felt like I got out of touch because, the news motto was what bleeds leads.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
I became that person where, I'd have a desk assistant say, hey, there's a missing woman in this town. And I'm like, what'd she look like? Is she pretty? Does she have a family? Like, do we care? Where's the sexiness in the story? And that's so horrible. And even like when there were deaths reported, I'd say, oh, how many dead? Just 2? I don't care. And it seems so surreal for me to say that now, but I just, that's just the nature of that business. It's like, what's going to draw the eyes? What's going to draw the ratings? Horror and fear. And, so basically, that ended up catching up to me. I started having incredibly vivid nightmares of, bombings and explosions, and just, I knew it was, I should also say, like, during this time, it completely shut down my intuition. Growing up, I was always that kid who would have dreams about things that would happen, and then they'd happen, precognitive dreams.
Good things or bad things, or both?
Both. Both. And I didn't know how to, I so desperately wanted to control that side of myself, and I decided to just shut it off. And so it was shut off. My intuition pretty much ignored it all throughout this whole, process of working in news. And, but it did come in handy. I didn't turn it off completely because it did come in handy when I was, working, when we had to figure out how to cover storms and stuff like that. I was incredibly good at doing that. I was incredibly good at pitching stories I knew would hit. And my boss would always ask me, like, how did you know where to go? How did you know that this would be? And it's like, I just knew. But anyway, I ended up having these incredibly vivid dreams that I knew was, spirit telling me to leave the job, leave, you've got to go. And I said, I can't, I don't know where I'm going to go. Like, I love this job. It's fun. Yes, the environment is toxic. The money was so good. I was like, where am I going to find another job that pays this well?
Right.
And offers me this challenge in TV,
Right.
And so what ultimately ended up happening is that if spirit forced me, and
as
one day,
spirit does.
Yeah, I had an incredibly bad migraine for like 3 days and I couldn't get out of bed. And then one day I got out of bed to walk my dog and the entire left hand side of my body was slack and I couldn't move it. Yeah. So, ended up going to the hospital and, they kept me overnight in the stroke ward because they thought I had a stroke.
Wow.
And I ended up that I did not, at least they couldn't, like it wasn't definitive, but all the symptoms are there. I lost my balance. I lost my ability to walk.
Wow.
And then I also
so symbolic as well.
Incredibly. It was like, if you weren't going to listen to us, we're going to make you sit down and listen.
Yeah.
So I was on medical leave for 3 months. And during that time, I did a lot of soul searching. And that's where I came across Louise Hay. And I don't remember if it was a friend who sent me a YouTube video, the YouTube movie of You Can Heal Your Life. Mm-hmm. But I watched it and I said, oh my gosh, that's me. That's me. Like, because at the time, I was, when I was working in news, I was incredibly depressed and I was in therapy and my therapist just wasn't helping. And when I came across Louise Hay, I was like, this is what I need. And so I got her book and I read it. And that's when I discovered Hay House Radio and I discovered Abraham Hicks. And I just started to kind of reclaim that side of myself that was spiritual and started to reclaim my intuition and acknowledge it and start working with my dreams again. Started dream journaling and just this whole process of self-healing. I went back to the job when my leave was up. And as soon as I walked into that door, even before I walked in through those doors, I had a panic attack and my body just like, again, shut down. And I quit that same day. I was like, I can't be here another week. Like, this is it.
Yeah.
And I had no idea what I was going to do. But I had to trust my body and I had to trust like, my, spirit talking to me, because I didn't listen before.
Yeah.
And
how did you get into writing after that? Was that, like just something that you started to tune back into, like that you like the comedy writing or?
Yes. So I always thought of myself as a dramatic writer. And because I feel like I'm a very serious person, I was like, I'm a very serious person. I'm going to write dramas or news. And that's why I got into news because I was like, I'm very serious and I'm smart. This is where I belong.
Yes.
But I always had friends in comedy. And, when I was on leave, I just started, piddling around with writing scripts again. And, I think it was the week I quit my job, it was also my birthday. And I went to a comedy show for my birthday. I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to go to a comedy show. I went to the Comedy Cellar in New York. If anyone's there, it's the best comedy place in New York. And I sat in the front row with my cousins and watched like Chris Rock, Aziz Ansari, Amy Schumer all drop in.
Wow.
And it was amazing. It was so great. I ended up making one of my great, like a really good friend there that night, who I still keep in touch with, and he's in comedy. And so that kind of helped kind of relaunch me into the comedy scene. So I after that, I started to go to shows around the city and made friends, and somehow landed into an improv class. I wrote a sketch video. And that first video I wrote and shot actually did really well. I'd say it went viral before, I guess, like viral meant 1 million views. But back when YouTube, where viral meant like a few thousand, that's what happened. And that made me feel really good. And I was like, maybe I need to follow this path. It scares me because it's so unfamiliar. And I've never thought of myself as a quote unquote, like funny person. Like never been a jokester or anything like that. But so the more I leaned into comedy, the more doors started to open, and really fast.
Good sign you're on your path.
Yeah. I got scholarships for UCB. I ended up on an incredible sketch team where we performed for sold out crowds every month. Sorry. It's crazy. It's really crazy.
Well, I love that story. I love the trajectory, and I especially love it because that is almost like exactly what happened to me. Down to the whole thing about the left side of the body. And really what I'm taking away from this is how we ignore the signs, so much, and how powerful our thoughts are and how powerful our body is, that it's kind of like a last resort to be like, no, listen, like just as you said, like it shut down and you weren't able. I was saying earlier, it was symbolic to me what you were saying, because you lost your balance. You had to find all that again, and it's symbolic of like, hey, you've lost your balance. Like you need to regain this again, spiritually, emotionally. Just quickly, of something very similar happened to me. I was working in the music business. I was a manager, and it made me really happy, but after a while, I just started to like bog myself down with the work, because in the entertainment business as well, it's kind of it's not as focused on contrast as news is, I would say. But there is still a lot of that. Like you were saying, is she pretty? How many people have died? It's the same type of thing. Like, okay, well, how big is this person, and how big of a look can we get with this, and how cool can we come off by doing this, and whatever. So anyway, I was really, really, really caught up in all of that, and I just loaded I think because I felt I was feeling kind of empty, I thought that like by taking on more work, that would make me feel even better. So I just basically didn't have a life, and I didn't sleep, and all I did was this. And then one day my face, the left side of my face, swelled up, like to the point where it cut off my airway. And I had to go to the emergency room. Like I look like a Snapchat filter, like one of those oblong faces Snapchat filter. Like it's kind of funny, but it was only the left side of my face, which I found was really interesting that you said it was the left side of your body, because I'm pretty positive that Louise Hay, I think, says this, that the left side of your body is like the intuitive side, like the spiritual side. Like that's like the side that is connected to like spirituality or whatever.
Yes.
So anyway, the left side of my face blew up, and it happened twice in like a 6-week period. And the first time I ignored it. I went to the emergency room and they gave me an antibiotic, and I just thought it was something I ate or something. The next time it happened, I was like, oh, okay, something needs to change. And I intuitively knew, just like you kind of knew, I was like, I need to meditate. I need to get out of this business. I need to just restart. Like I need to balance again. And so I really understand that rebalancing, that seems to take over you at a certain point. And also another thing that we have in common is my parents, I grew up with both of my parents worked in the news from before I was born. And I used to be terrified of the news. Like they would be like, we need to check on work. And and turn it on and I would cry. I'd be like, no, don't do it. Because it was all like murders. And I just remember feeling so strongly, you know, but anyway,
that's incredible. And it's also, it's interesting that it was the left side of your body. And how you also felt like you needed to overcompensating by working more. And we just throw ourselves into work or a bunch of activities or just overdoing it and thinking that that'll solve the problem, and it doesn't.
Yeah, because I think that's what we're taught in society. You know, it's like, oh, just distract yourself, just get busy with some stuff, you know, you're not working hard enough. Like throw yourself into work. That's something I used to hear all the time. Oh, just throw yourself into work. Don't worry about it. And it's like, that works for a little bit. And, but after a while, it's like, and especially where we're going, I think with our planet right now, it's like, no, now we're coming into a time where, you know, we need to connect, not throw ourselves into something outside of ourselves, like connect back to ourselves. And in that way, you know, we're led down the right path. Well, so how did you end up finding the podcast?
Well, I love podcasts, and I'm always on the lookout for new content or new shows to listen to. So I think I found it through the spirituality tab on iTunes.
Awesome.
I think a couple years ago, and started listening and really, really enjoyed. I've, found some really great new learnings, and now a new community. So it's been great. I really enjoy it.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. The community around this podcast is amazing. If you're listening and not in the Positive Heads Facebook group, get in there. It's Positive Heads with an S. And as I say during basically every interview I've been doing, that's the community is why we've been wanting to do these episodes with you listeners, because it's just so special and there's so many great people and great gifts and great perspectives. And each one of you is just this perfect little fractal, of this overall message of connecting back to the self. And I love your story for anyone because you were really in the mainstream, like thick of it, really there. And now, so what, you told us a little bit that you got into comedy writing, but so now you mentioned that you wanted to write comedy with like a spiritual undertone. I love that. I'm so intrigued by that. So what are you working on now exactly?
So I'm always working on a pilot. I'm writing a pilot right now.
Awesome.
And then lining up the next couple pilots to write. So it's just, right now, just working on that, hoping that it'll, get some buzz, and also working on connecting with other writers and, producers, creators who are interested in bringing, this kind of content into the mainstream. I feel like I keep hearing, especially in our spiritual community, oh, I don't watch TV. And to me, that's quite harmful for those of us who are light workers, who are called to work in mainstream television, because we want to shift and create that shift and that change. And we need the support of people who,
such a good point.
We do need that support. And I understand, like, there's a lot of content out there. Like, I don't watch a lot of content, but I do support the content that I feel is, higher vibration, or if you want to call it that, or that makes me feel good and is uplifting. And I support those creators, and, would love to work with them. And, also, while staking my own, claim and territory, and creating my own shows.
I love what you just said, because that's something that I feel like isn't really talked about enough and isn't really even thought about enough. But I think about that sometimes, exactly what you just said, because sometimes I catch myself. I grew up pretty serious too. Like, now I love to laugh and I love people and things that make me laugh. But I grew up kind of serious and always looking, like you said, for content and thing. I've always been kind of like a seeker and a questioner and kind of wanting to know more, but more on like the serious side. And I find sometimes, especially in working and helping out with this podcast and being so deep in like my own spiritual development, as I'm sure a lot of us are, I find that sometimes I'm like, okay, enough. Like I need a break from this. Like I need a break from all this intense, personal, spiritual stuff. I love it, but I can feel I need to just laugh. I need to just feel, I need to just be able to watch something that's not so intensely serious or related to my life or what's going on right now, and just kind of enjoy. And so what you're saying is so hits the nail on the head for me, because that's what I think all the time. It's like there is content out there that is higher vibration. It might not be about spirituality. It might not be necessarily about all of, these things I talk about, but it doesn't, or that we talk about here, but it doesn't mean that it's bad. It's I think sometimes the people in this group, or just us, like positive heads, we can get so focused on this that we can then shut out anything else and label it as, well, that's not spiritual, so that's not something that I should be consuming. But Abraham Hicks says it all the time. She's like, materialism is spirituality. Like, that's the most spiritual thing you could do, because manifesting things is why you came here. We came here to manifest our dreams. And as you said, it's about shifting what is manifested to something more like higher vibrational. So yes.
Right. Like, and if we're not in that space, if we're completely avoiding the mainstream space, then how can we change it?
So true. Yes.
You can't change it. So
yes.
Yeah.
And as you're saying that, actually, you just, I just thought, how perfect is it? Just taking your story in particular, how perfect is it, your trajectory? Because you came from entertainment, quote unquote, entertainment news, right? Like, you came from the entertainment world, the news world, where it's nonstop all the time. And because of your contrasting experience within that world, it's launched you to the other side of this world, where now you're helping kind of balance this same area just towards like higher vibrations. So isn't it so perfect? Like what you know?
Yeah, just shifting into comedy, but then, it also encouraged, like, if anyone's called to work as a journalist, that, they're definitely needed there.
Yeah.
I'm not in that space anymore, and I don't intend to go back, but it's definitely an area that I see shifting, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and it's hard because they're in, constant contrast.
Right.
And conflict. So it's tough.
Do you think you could see in the future there ever being like a positive news network? That just kind of all focused on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's already kind of happening on, on Facebook, where, people sharing positive news stories that lift them up. So I feel like that's just the beginning of that movement.
Absolutely. Well, I'm definitely going to have to talk to you after this interview, because I've actually been writing as well and working on a pilot as well that has a spiritual undertone as well. So I would love to connect with you on that. And I'm sure there's lots of other writers listening to this podcast right now who would also love to connect with you. So while we're on this topic, how can people connect with you?
So you can connect with me on Facebook through the Positive Head community. I'm also on Instagram. If you want to follow me there, sometimes I post writing tips and books that I'm reading and stuff like that. on my Instagram, and that's at Marisa Bramwell. I'm most active there. I'm not really active on Twitter anymore. Yeah, I'm also right on Medium if you're curious. And if you have a Medium page, like I think that would be pretty cool if we all shared our writing on the community page too and support each other.
I've been thinking about posting to Medium. I see some really amazing, like alternative perspectives on there. And I think that's great. Have you found success, posting or uploading there or?
Oh, I mean, I don't really advertise when I do.
Yeah. Or I just mean like just
I don't really have a common theme, but yeah, I mean, I've gotten some positive feedback from what I've posted on there. Yes.
That's great. Yeah, I definitely want to check that out. Well, so speaking about our community here, how would you like to see the Positive Head community expand? Are there any ideas that you'd like to throw out into the collective?
Yeah, and I've seen some talk of this on the page, but just I think local meetups would be amazing.
Yes.
And I'm actually doing a couple of beach cleanups here in LA, so I was thinking about sharing it out on the group and inviting folks to join. Yeah, you
should. That's great. Yeah, LA I think is one of the places we have the most listeners for sure. I mean, obviously Brandon is close to LA. So yeah, and you know, you're like about the fifth person in a row to suggest that. And
cool.
You know, we've talked about events and I think that is definitely something that's going to be happening more and more. So if you're listening to this and you are interested in hosting a local event, post on the Facebook group and let's get some of these going. Because I think that is, you know, the next step for this group. People want to interact in person. So yeah. So what is one thing that you think would benefit every P head to know or understand as they continue on their journey?
Definitely to be gentle with yourself and to hang in there, because it's never ending and constantly evolving. And to also, while you're on this journey, to mind the ego and to stay curious, to constantly research and definitely mind the ego. I've you know, not to say don't do this, but you know, just mind when you're saying, well, I'm more evolved than so-and-so. Well, and then, you know, the minute you say that, something slaps you down and reminds you.
Spiritual narcissism, you mean?
Still, spiritual narcissism is very real. And I was actually, I was thinking of writing a post about that because, I've felt a lot and seen a lot of it. So unfortunately, but it's also, experiencing that is a good reminder for myself.
Yeah. I think I personally went through a short stage like that as I was, just coming into this like work and understanding. And it seems to me that it's almost like a stage that people just automatically go through once they, because, and it makes sense the way that we're programmed, right? Like we're so programmed to kind of be like, well, this is right, so that's wrong, And it seems like the second that we kind of start learning about this stuff, we automatically go, okay, so what we're doing here is right, therefore everyone else is wrong, and you guys better catch up to what we're doing here, because, and it's, but yeah, absolutely, it's something to be mindful of, because you don't even realize that you're basically doing the thing that you don't want anyone to do.
Right. And then the minute you feel that you're so evolved, is it that quote? It's like until you spend some time with your family, and then you're just
so true.
It's so true. And we're just always growing, we're always learning, and read everything, watch everything, and form your own perspective. Like there is no right way to do anything. And nobody truly knows everything. I think Brandon says something like that all the time. The more you know, the more you know that you don't really know anything. Right? Or something like that. Because everyone, that's something that I'm really coming around to, is understanding that
I can feel it within myself, at least, that I have this bias towards, am I doing this right? Is this condition in my life right? Should I be doing something else? And that questioning of yourself, first of all, locks you up and blocks everything you want from coming to you, in my experience. And second of all, it's what you said. There is no right or wrong. And that's what we're here to learn, is that each one of us is such a unique path, and it's up to us to decide. There's no right or wrong, you know?
Yes. Yeah.
Well,
and
go
one
ahead.
other thing I definitely wanted to remember to mention is that, like, I guess as people continue on this journey, is to just be mindful of diversity and inclusivity just across all boards, like gender, age, race, sexuality, class. Because, I'm new to LA. I've only been here maybe 7 months, but I've noticed that many of these, quote unquote, spiritual communities are self-segregated, mostly amongst race and class. So it's just really making those genuine efforts to be inclusive and form genuine relationships with people, no matter what their background.
I love that one. Yeah. Another thing we have in common, I used to live in LA for 6 years. So I can definitely see that being a thing. But that's, as we were talking about, that's part of the transition, that's part of what we're transitioning into. But I definitely think that's a good point. Absolutely. Well, so do you have an intention for 2018?
I feel like every year I say I'm going to surrender, and then I get uptight, and then I don't. So this year I'm fully committed to surrendering and to, just forming a deeper connection within myself and with others.
I love that. I think,
and however that unfolds.
Yes. That's the best intention. I could share that one as well. And I'm sure a lot of people in the group could as well. It's like the most important thing to just let go and go with the flow, because it's taking us to where we want to go anyway, right?
Yeah.
Well, Marisa, this was amazing to connect with you. I love your story. I think you're such an amazing example of someone who's, really like tuned into themselves and followed their own path and made a change. And, it's really awesome, your perspective. And I'm really excited to see what you do with this writing, because I think it will be a benefit for all of us and the world. So anything else before we go?
I did want to note that through this podcast, I found my psychic and mediumship teacher, Colby Rebel, who's amazing. So I work with her, did her Lightworker Spirit Circle last couple
How
months
was
ago.
that?
It was amazing. It was great.
I saw her promoting that. I was curious about how that was going to go.
Oh, yeah. I highly recommend it, just for anybody, even if you feel like you're too new. It was really helpful for helping me really connect and trust my intuition. And I did mediumship for the first time, which was wild.
How was that? Did you get to try? Like, did you have success, or what happened with that?
Yeah, it was cool. We did the whole, you stand up in front of your class and you say who you feel in the room.
Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome. Yeah. I would love to do that one day.
It was cool. Yeah, I highly recommend it.
Oh, awesome.
So,
well, maybe next time Colby does a workshop, I'll make a visit to LA. I haven't been there in a couple years. That's really awesome. Well, Marisa, thank you so much. This was great. Love all your insight, and journey well.
Thank you so much, Alexa. This is awesome.
That's it for this week's episode. If you're a listener with a story to share and are interested in being featured on a future episode of this special series, you can email me at alexa@positivehead.com. Also, if you're craving more consciousness elevating content, be sure to check out Gaia, which is the go-to source for streaming consciousness content on the web, where you can stream an incredible 7,000 plus exclusive videos covering 5,000 years of wisdom. As you all hear Brandon constantly say, it's a daily conscious effort to maintain an elevated vibration, and if you're looking to journey deep down the rabbit hole to do so, then Gaia is the best place we know of to do it. Period. And you can sign up for your first month for only 99 cents at gaia.com/positivehead. That's spelled GAIA.com/positivehead. Check it out. Otherwise, tune in next Friday for another P-Head Posse episode. And until then, as Brandon always says, journey well.